Good afternoon, all of you. So let's get going. Today we are in our last discussion on budget, and we will be able to finish it today. Just to tell you a few things. One, the document related to PDF of budget that I had been discussing with you has already been uploaded now. So you from the description you can see that. तो जो description है आप वहाँ से document देख सकते हैं. वो document upload हो चुका है अब budget का. एक बात तो ये है. दूसरा, before I start today, I would like to thank the team behind me. I have been helped greatly by my assistants Devpreet, Divya, Lokesh, Akshay, Sandeep. All of them have been great help to me, and a special thanks to Next IAS team also. So I just thought that I should acknowledge them in front of you, because you guys should know that I'm just the face. I'm speaking, I'm analyzing, but they do a lot of hard work of collecting the data and making all these slides, developing the spreadsheets, creating all the PDF for you. So thanks to all of them that we are able to present it for you. So the entire Next IAS team is behind it. And needless to say, the tremendous management support by Mr. B. Singh and others. So let's get going. We'll begin today with Pillar 5 that had been announced last year in the budget. That was technology and innovation, Anusandhan, as has been said. Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Jai Vigyan, Jai Anusandhan. You know, that is what we have been talking on. So we talk about technology and enabler. Now when we say technology is an enabler, what does that imply? What it implies is that technology talks about, or technology can be used to uplift people. You know, uplifting people as in you can use UPI for the purpose of making payments even to small vendors. You can use a DigiLocker for making sure that even small documents are kept in place. We can use Aadhaar to make sure even the remote distant area people can be connected for PDS. So this is technology as an enabler. Telemedicine, you know, e-Pathshala, this is technology as an enabler. So this is one, the technology is an enabler. And as I told you, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Jai Vigyan, Jai Anusandhan. This is about R&D, innovation, you know, that is Jai Anusandhan. Now see, we say that they catalyze growth. Remember, it is estimated by UNDP that a country which invests 1% in its R&D can add up to 2% in its GDP over 5 years duration. This research was brought in by UNDP 6 years ago, that a country, just before COVID pandemic, that the country which invests 1% in its R&D, 1% of its GDP, can actually add 2% of GDP per annum over the next 6 years. Then of course it's about creating employment, like, you know, banking development, physical infrastructure development, along with digital infrastructure, education, healthcare, and development mainly about ease of living. You know, development, क्योंकि development का मतलब सिर्फ GDP growth नहीं होता. Development का मतलब ease of living भी होता है. You know, development doesn't only mean ease of living. Development also, only GDP growth. Development also means ease of living. How easy you can live. Is water supply near to you? Can you pay your electricity bill sitting at home? Are you getting electrified? Are roads good around you? Is education a possibility around you? All that is also a part of this whole process. Then of course we talk about new initiatives like what has been done in the budget. So this time they have said there will be a corpus for innovation of rupees 1 lakh crore, and in this rupees 1 lakh crore there will be interest free loans given, interest free loans to youth, setting of startup in research and development. You know, technological startups, youth being promoted. This is something that we are talking about in the interim budget. Then this loan will be given for 50 years. You know, there will be 50 years. मतलब इन्हीं को आप कहते हो soft loans. Soft loans का मतलब जो बहुत दिनों तक के लिए दिए जाए और जो हमारे लोन कम इंटरेस्ट रेट पे हो या zero interest rate पे हो. So very low interest rate and for very long period, we call them soft loans. So these are some soft loans that are being promised. And then we have, the government has also proposed a new scheme for deep technology for defense purposes. In the changing world and in the uncertain world, it is important that our technology remains up to date with respect to the future challenges, and defense will be one of them. So again, the money has not been specified, but the government has said that a special funding will be created for money to be developed under this defense purposes, deep technology. And then they say in budget of 2023-24, Center of Excellence for AI were announced. You know, ये vision of make AI in India and make AI work for India, ऐसा कहा था finance minister ने budget of 2023-24 में, Center of Excellence for AI. तो उन्होंने कहा था कि 3 centers of excellence for AI set up किए जाएंगे, that are artificial intelligence development in India and make AI in India and make AI for India. 990 crore rupees have been already approved for these 3 centers of excellence, and they will be developed for health, agriculture and sustainable cities for the period 24 to 28. This is important. The 3 centers of excellence to be developed over health, agriculture and sustainable cities between 2024 to 28, and 990 crore has already been given for this initiative announced in last year's budget. Another initiative announced in last year's budget was 5G services application. Again, in that, the delivery of equipment, installation and operationalization of labs is expected to be completed by March 2024. The delivery of equipment and installation and operationalization of labs to develop 5G services and their applications and business-to-business connections is expected to be completed by March 2024. तो मार्च 2024 तक ये एक्सपेक्टेड है कि ये सारे डिलीवरी ऑफ इक्विपमेंट, इंस्टॉलेशन एंड सर्विसेज कंप्लीट हो जाएंगे. एक और बात हुई है, 5G अवेयरनेस वर्कशॉप्स, स्किलिंग्स एंड नेटवर्किंग, दैट हैज आल्सो बीन डेवलप्ड. एक और चीज गवर्नमेंट ने अनाउंस किया था, लैब ग्रोन डायमंड्स. लैब ग्रोन डायमंड्स आर ऑलमोस्ट सिमिलर टू द रियल डायमंड्स एंड they are ecologically friendly. So it was said that we will be developing lab grown diamonds, and R&D grant will be provided to one of the IITs, and India will try becoming one of the hubs of producing lab grown diamonds. And now IIT Madras has been identified for this research, IIT Chennai, for this research contract, and Department of Commerce is setting up a state-of-art facility to create this lab grown diamond. The Department of Commerce is creating this research and development facility for lab grown diamond. So these are things that we had talked about. Then there was a national data governance policy to foster innovation. एक national data governance policy की बात थी जिससे innovation को promote किया जा सके. इस केस में सरकार ने draft bill present कर दिया है, and it will be given for public discussion by April. It is under finalization, the draft bill for a national data governance policy to foster innovation, and hope to be ready with it for public discussion in April. Apart from that, the budget had also announced that we will create data embassy. That is, Indian embassies abroad will be using data and will be continuing the solutions, and financial purposes, remote purposes, it will be used. That process is also in lieu, and it is being operated. सरकार ने ये कहा है कि हम विदेशी सरकारों के साथ बातचीत कर रहे हैं, उनके साथ बायलैटरल अरेंजमेंट करेंगे, और तब ये जो डेटा एम्बेसीज हैं वो इस्टेब्लिश करने की बात फ्रक्टिफाई होगी. सो दिस इज ऑन टेक्नोलॉजी. मैं सजेस्ट करूंगा जो भी मैंने कहा आप एक पेज बना लीजिए उसका. Make a page of it. I am expecting a question on technology this year in the mains exam, something related to technology, like steps taken to promote technology or the economy of technology. So the discussion I did last year in the economic survey on digital public infrastructure combined with the talk on technology that you can keep. Okay, then there is pillar 6, ease of doing business and governance reforms. That is pillar 6. So इस बार नया नाम दिया वित्त मंत्री ने जीडीपी को. She said it is governance, development and performance. Keep this in mind. So she said GDP is not only about GDP growth, it is governance, development and performance. And in this case, it is citizen first. So priority to the people, minimum government and maximum governance approach. चलिए कम से कम सरकार ये बातें कह तो रही है लगातार 8-9 साल से, ये अच्छी बात है, क्योंकि अभी तक पूरी तरह से हम उस अप्रोच पे गए नहीं हैं. वी हैव नॉट फुली गॉन टू दैट अप्रोच. ये मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि आप कोई भी नए भी कानून देखेंगे, जैसे हम लोग बोलते हैं, एक आइडिया लीजिए, आप लोग कोचिंग सेंटर को ही ले लीजिए, मैं कोचिंग सेंटर में खड़ा हूँ, तो कोचिंग सेंटर को ले लीजिए. सरकार कहते हैं दैट 14 साल से छोटी उम्र के बच्चे कोचिंग में नहीं एडमिशन मिलने चाहिए, कोचिंग सेंटर शुड टेक केयर ऑफ दैट. तो सोचिए कि एक्स्ट्रा फाइल ऐड होगा अब कोचिंग सेंटर का, अपना बर्थ सर्टिफिकेट दीजिए ताकि हम पक्का कर सके कि आप 14 साल से बड़े नहीं हैं. आइडियली ये पेरेंट्स को समझना है that kids are very young when they are 12, 13, 11, 10 and they should not be taking coaching at that age. They should be free to live their life. Even those engineering coaching and medical coaching, जरूरत नहीं 6-7 से बच्चों को डालने की. बट अगर आप इसको एक ऑफिशियल सिस्टम बनाएंगे तो आप एक एक्स्ट्रा फाइल ऐड करवा रहे हैं कि अब लाइए भाई अपना बर्थ सर्टिफिकेट भी दीजिए और तब हम पक्का कर लें कि कोचिंग में आप नहीं रख रहे हैं. तो ये मुझे लगता है ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस के खिलाफ ही बात है और ये मैक्सिमम गवर्नमेंट मिनिमम गवर्नेंस जैसी बात हो जाएगी. तो ठीक है, लेकिन चलिए हम लोग कह रहे हैं तो अब उम्मीद है धीरे धीरे इधर बढ़ेंगे भी. हाँ, कुछ अच्छी बातें हुई हैं, जैसे कंप्लायंसेस हटाए गए, जैसे डिक्रिमिनलाइजेशन ऑफ लॉ किया गया. तो मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ नहीं हुई है बातें, बट अभी भी जब मैं सरकार के एटीट्यूड देखता हूँ कभी कभी या कहीं कहीं, when I see the government's methods of taking decisions, it feels that we still are in the days when government would believe that government is important, governance can wait, but government should be present there. So I think that is something we can gradually learn, that government should be the facilitator, government should not be the controller of the economic system. But then at least कम से कम अच्छी बात यह है कि 9 years से सरकार कहते तो आ रहे that we will have a maximum governance, minimum government approach. Then there are few highlights from interim budget in that, like fiscal federalism, the interest-free loans linked to milestones. Now there are interest-free loans given for 50 years also to states and union territories for capital expenditure development. Also interest-free loans are given to state and union territories for electricity sector reforms, for participating in One Nation One Ration Card scheme. So in all that the interest-free loans have been given. That is one example where fiscal federalism is at work. Then there is tax reform that has been suggested, like faceless assessment. There will be faceless assessment of people, that is there will be a computer assessing your tax amount and there will not be a person assessing it. तो manual assessment हटाने से delays कम होंगी, करप्शन कम होगा और कंप्यूटर रहेगा तो एफिशिएंसी भी ज़्यादा आ जाएगी इन द असेसमेंट. तो ये एक अच्छा स्टेप लिया हमने. प्रोसेसिंग टाइम कम हो गया है, जो लोगों को रिफंड मिलने होते थे अपने टैक्स के, दैट हैज़ बीन रिड्यूस्ड ड्रास्टिकली. इनफैक्ट द प्रोसेसिंग टाइम according as announced by the finance minister has come down now to 10 days from 86 days in 2014. So from 86 days processing time coming down to 10 days. So that is again something that is a big achievement that we see finance minister saying. Updated IT returns are put immediately, so people find it easier to shift from their transfer one day to another, और their tax transfer from one year to another. जैसे किसी ने गलती से टैक्स दे दिया कहीं और साल में तो उसकी ट्रांसफर हो सकती है by updated IT system that is there. अब जो इनिशिएटिव इंटरिम बजट में लिए गए, इस बार टैक्स को लेकर कुछ खास नहीं किया गया है क्योंकि मुझे लगता है मेन बजट की वेट कर रहे हैं सरकार. So the finance minister said that we are not making any major changes to the tax system, so our income tax system, the GST and all, they remain similar. Few things have been said. One is that the government said that we will be bringing in a scheme where petty small disputes up to 25,000 up to year 2010 and up to 10,000 till year after 2010, those petty and small disputes will now be removed from the structure, and the people, those disputes will be are resolved, and people, if they are waiting for their refund because the disputes are still pending, will not have to wait for it anymore. अगर कोई अपने रिफंड की वेट कर रहे हैं क्योंकि डिस्प्यूट्स पेंडिंग है तो उनको वो रिफंड की वेट नहीं करनी पड़ेगी. दैट इज द एस्पेक्ट दैट वी सी इन दिस. So this is a न्यू अनाउंसमेंट ऑफ इंटरिम बजट, क्योंकि उन्होंने कहा कि 1962 से टैक्स डिमांड्स पेंडिंग पड़े हुए हैं. सो द टैक्स डिमांड्स पेंडिंग फ्रॉम 1962 अप टू 25,000 rupees till 2010, and after 2010 10,000 rupees between 2010 to 2015, very small tax disputes which are unnecessarily creating delays. The government is saying we are now going to remove them from the picture. They stand withdrawn. All right, so that's a change this year's budget. Last year, of course, they had brought in Mission Karm Yogi, Jan Vishwas Bill, State Support Mission, but I had gone in this in detail in last year's budget, so I'm not pushing you towards that side, that's in that direction. But these were some good reforms that were brought in last year. Then the financial sector is seventh pillar of the government. That's again very important. When we say financial sector as pillar 7, because the financial sector is needed for all round entrepreneurship growth. आप सोच के देखिए, if a financial sector in the country is doing well, you get money mobilized for research and development. If financial sector of the country is doing well, you get money mobilized for banking purposes, you get money mobilized for entrepreneurship, for infrastructure development. अगर फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर ना हो, जैसे स्टॉक मार्केट ना हो, बॉन्ड मार्केट ना हो, ऐसी चीजें ना हो, तो फिर उस केस में कंट्री की फाइनेंशियल डेवलपमेंट, जो ओवरऑल डेवलपमेंट है, वो रुक जाती है. तो इसीलिए सरकार ने फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर को पिछले बजट में 7th पिलर बताया था. इस बार के बजट में अभी सरकार ने बहुत ज्यादा अनाउंसमेंट नहीं किए हैं. मैं अलग से एक वीडियो बनाने वाला हूं, इसलिए मैं आज उसकी चर्चा बहुत ज्यादा नहीं कर रहा, बट आई विल मेक अ वीडियो सेपरेटली फॉर 15-20 minutes ऑन गिफ्ट सिटी and the relevance of gift city in India's development. The Gujarat Industrial Financial Technology City, International Financial Technology City. ये gift city बहुत important है. आप उस पे मैं आपको पढ़ाऊंगा भी. 15 minutes video I will make on YouTube very soon. But that's very important. Keep it in mind. For financial development, gift city can be India's next big thing. It has the potential to develop a Singapore in India for financial purposes and make India a hub of financial investment because of ease of doing business and a special economic zone status. And government has been working quite over time in promoting this gift city. So basically that is the idea. Apart from that, there are few things that when it comes to financial sector, government bolte hain we will improve the size, that is we will increase the size of the financial sector, allow more institutions. Then we will increase capacity. So we will increase capacity to absorb more people. आज सोचिए इंडियन स्टॉक मार्केट में सिर्फ 8.5 to 9% ऑफ इंडियाज पॉपुलेशन पार्टिसिपेट करता है, तब हमारी कितनी जबरदस्त ट्रेडिंग है. हम ऑलमोस्ट 3 ट्रिलियन के ऊपर की ट्रेडिंग कर रहे हैं, ऑलमोस्ट. तो सोचिए अगर इंडिया का 25% पॉपुलेशन भी पार्टिसिपेट करने लगे, उसके लिए अगर कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग हो जाए और स्किल डेवलप हो जाए, तो कितना ज्यादा ग्रोथ मिल जाएगा. हाँ, लेकिन जब आप मास स्केल पे लोगों को लाएंगे, when the capacity will be developed and when you allow people to participate in bond and asset market in a mass scale, then you need a very good regulatory framework. सेबी को improve करना होगा, जो हमारे इंश्योरेंस रेगुलेटरी डेवलपमेंट एजेंसी हैं उनको स्ट्रेंथन करना होगा, so to make sure that we don't lose out in the system. Also, the financial sector, if you see, our equity markets are outperforming peers like anything. We were at something like 7,000 Sensex value at the beginning of 2005, and now we are touching 70,000. So you can well imagine what has been the drastic increase that we have seen in the last 15 years. 10 times growth in BSE Sensex. The returns to people have gone high. और एक बात हमेशा ध्यान में रखिएगा, इससे कुछ कॉमन लोग भी अमीर होते हैं जो शेयर होल्डर्स हैं आज की डेट में इंडिया में. So this is something that has happened, but again we need to educate people about how to participate in share market, not trying to get short-term benefit out of it. Mutual fund industry has grown tremendously in India. The asset under management has gone up by more than 30 times in the last 6 years. So all that is welcome news for India. Growth in डीमैट अकाउंट होते हैं डीमटीरियलाइज्ड अकाउंट, जो आप बैंक में खोलते हैं शेयर वगैरह में ट्रांजैक्शन करने के लिए. इनिशियल पब्लिक ऑफर्स आए हैं मार्केट में, बहुत सारी कंपनीज ने अपने शेयर इशू किए. इनिशियल पब्लिक ऑफर मतलब मान लीजिए मैं एक कंपनी हूं और मैं पैसे चाहता हूं अपने इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए, लेकिन मैं बैंक से लोन नहीं लेना चाहता, तो मैं अगर ये कॉन्फिडेंट हूं कि लोगों को मेरी कंपनी पे भरोसा होगा, तो मैं अपना इनिशियल पब्लिक ऑफर रजिस्टर करके इशू कर सकता हूं. लोग मेरे कंपनी में शेयर में इन्वेस्ट करेंगे, मुझे पैसे मिलेंगे और बिना लोन लिए मैं और ग्रो कर सकता हूं. सो स्मॉल कंपनीज, बिग कंपनीज, इट गिव्स एन अल्टरनेटिव सोर्स ऑफ फंडिंग फॉर ऑल. Then of course bond market has been stabilized. इशुएंस ऑफ कॉर्पोरेट बॉन्ड्स हैज इंक्रीज्ड, लेकिन अगर आप मुझसे पूछिए तो यहाँ अभी भी इंप्रूवमेंट हो सकती है, यहाँ अभी भी डेप्थ लाई जा सकती है. इसमें एक इंपॉर्टेंट बात 2021 में आरबीआई ने किया था, दैट नाउ the common people are allowed to buy government bonds. From before 2021 they were not allowed. After 2021 common people are allowed to buy government bonds. एक और बात इसमें ध्यान रखने की है, that now RBI has allowed certain private bonds also to be traded in repo market. Private bonds with AAA value rating can be traded in repo market. तो RBI भी कोशिश कर रहे हैं that they can expand the market. एक और important बात हुई है that now JP Morgan has included Government of India bonds as a part of the structure of marking or standardizing the bond value. इसका benefit ये होगा that now international institutions are accepting Indian bonds as a standard bond issued, and that will mean that it will be easier to take loans abroad because सरकारी bond आपके establish करते हैं standardization. सरकार सबसे safe bond issuer है, तो इसका मतलब सरकार के बॉन्ड पे मान लीजिए 4% का रिटर्न है, तो उसके हिसाब से बाकी बॉन्ड्स का रिटर्न तय किया जा सकता है कि उनके रिस्क के आधार पर. तो इसीलिए सरकार के बॉन्ड को अगर स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन में रख लिया जाए तो इसका बेनिफिट होता है बाकी कॉर्पोरेट को भी एक्सटर्नल कमर्शियल बोरोइंग्स में, क्योंकि फिर उनका इंटरेस्ट रेट एक नियम के थ्रू, एक रूल के थ्रू स्टैब्लिश होता है. I'm just repeating myself in English. If government bond is standardized and an international institution includes it in its list of standard bonds, then that means that now people are valuing my government bonds, recognizing it, and the corporates also borrowing abroad can now take a reference point that, look, this is the value of my government bond, this is what I would like you to then give me as the interest rate, so or take interest rate from me. तो ये एक अच्छी बात डेवलप हुई है पिछले कुछ महीनों में. Then of course हमारे NPAs काफी नीचे आ गए हैं. आप सोचिए 2018 11.7% of total loans ये हमारे NPAs थे. By 2023 September 3.2% of total loans ये हमारे NPA हैं. मैं gross NPA की बात कर रहा हूं. So this is our gross NPA that we have seen. That's actually a good achievement on part of Indian economy, that our gross NPA has relatively come down. Now of course in the previous budget we talked about establishing National Financial Information Registry, but इसमें अभी stakeholder consideration ही finalize हुए हैं और इसके basic parameters finalize हो गए हैं, लेकिन इसमें आगे के जो steps हैं जैसे institution बनाना और इनके registry को establish करना, ये अभी पूरी तरह से complete नहीं हुआ है. Similarly, review of financial sector regulation. RBI is continuing the consultancy. It is talking to all stakeholders, regulatory entities, और SEBI ने जो है वो considerably increase कर दिए अपने consultation papers to develop India as a new regulatory part. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Institution has also established a comprehensive process for making sure that regulations can be established well. Then of course I told you about GIFT IFSC. We will talk about GIFT IFSC in a separate video. I will be making it very soon. I'm coming up with few more videos for you, like GIFT IFSC, like internationalization of rupee and so on. So I will be discussing it with you, but this is very important. Please keep this in mind. This GIFT IFSC will be very important. Then fintech services that has been improved, like giving loans through digital means, digital banking units being established, 75 digital banking units being proposed also that we had done in the last year's budget. So this is something that we have been working upon. In fact, amendments have already been passed and portals have already been developed to create these fintech services and give them more established ventures. And then of course, as I told you, capacity building in share and bond markets. The government is working on that. The government is making sure that provisions and market codes are established so that capacity building can be quicker. Again, from exams point of view, and we have uploaded again I repeat for all of yours knowledge, we have uploaded the sheet, the PDF of all the notes that I have discussed in the last 3 budget in the description. Use that will be more than enough to do everything related to this year's budget and last year's budget's achievement. यही question ज़्यादा important है आपके लिए prelims के point of view से. Then I go to another part of budget दिस इज फ्रॉम प्रीलिम्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इंटायरली। ये जो डिस्कशन मैं कर रहा हूं ये पूरी तरह प्रीलिम्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से है, क्योंकि जब तक आपका मेंस आएगा नया बजट आ चुका रहेगा। सो दिस डिस्कशन इज प्योरली फ्रॉम प्रीलिम्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू। नाउ आई एम मेकिंग अ कंपैरिजन। सो वेयर इंडिया गेट्स इट्स मनी फ्रॉम? सो इंडिया गेट्स इट्स मनी फ्रॉम बोरोइंग्स बीइंग द मेजर फैक्टर। ब्लू में जो है वो पिछले साल का है और ऑरेंज में इस साल का है। अच्छी बात यह है दैट हमारे जो बोरोइंग रिक्वायरमेंट है वो थोड़े कम हो गए हैं। द बोरोइंग रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैव नाउ कम डाउन एज अ परसेंटेज ऑफ बजट। लास्ट ईयर इट वाज ऑलमोस्ट 34%, this year it is 28%, but borrowing is still the largest source. At 28%, borrowing is still the largest source of revenue generation for government. But in absolute terms, last year it was 17 lakh crore. This year it is 16.8 lakh crore. That's a welcome news. 16.4 lakh crore. That's a welcome news for corporates. Because crowding out khatam hoga. Kya hai ye crowding out? If government borrows more, then the liquidity in the market comes down, so interest rate go up, and that makes loan costlier and therefore difficult for corporates to get cheaper loans. अब जब सरकार ने अपनी borrowing कम कर दी, there will be more liquidity for borrowing of corporates and private investments can be encouraged. So this is a good step. Income tax has now become the highest contributor in our revenue generation from taxation side. 19% is the share of income tax in revenue generation. Last year it was around 15%. Corporate tax is at 17%, so the direct tax is at 36%. Both income tax and corporate tax were close to 15% last year. This time it is 19% and 17%. Corporation tax या corporate tax होता है टैक्स ऑन प्रॉफिट ऑफ द कंपनीज। जो कंपनी के प्रॉफिट पे टैक्स लगा कॉर्पोरेशन टैक्स, और जो लोगों की इनकम पे लगा वो इनकम टैक्स। बट इसमें एक बात का ध्यान रखिएगा, जो बहुत स्मॉल स्केल पे बिजनेस भी कर रहे हैं, जैसे सोल प्रोप्राइटरशिप है, एक आदमी अपना बिजनेस चला रहा है या प्राइवेट कंपनी है, तो वो भी कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स नहीं देते। इन मेनी केसेस वो पर्सनल इनकम टैक्स में ही काउंट होते हैं। तो पर्सनल इनकम टैक्स का मतलब सिर्फ ये नहीं होता कि सैलरीड लोग ही दे रहे हैं, इसमें वो लोग भी दे सकते हैं जो बिजी प्रोफेशनल्स हैं, जैसे फिल्म स्टार हो गए, डॉक्टर्स हो गए, लॉयर्स हो गए। तो जो लोग टैक्स देंगे हायर अमाउंट, जरूरी नहीं कहना चाह रहा हूं कि इनकम टैक्स का मतलब ये नहीं होता कि सिर्फ कम इनकम के लोग ही दे रहे हैं। There can be more professionals and sole proprietorships and partnerships who can also be giving income tax. Corporate tax is about companies established and paying tax on their profit. So 17% is now corporate tax. यहाँ मैं आपको कुछ और interesting बात बताऊंगा। The estimated corporate tax जो budget estimate है 2024-25 के लिए वो 9.2 trillion rupees है, which is almost 80% more than what we had in 2019 when corporate taxes were reduced in India. तो अगर आप कभी अखबार में या कहीं पढ़ते हैं कि कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स रिडक्शन का फायदा नहीं मिला, आप ध्यान रखिएगा 2019-20 में यही कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स 5.2 ट्रिलियन था और नॉमिनल जीडीपी इतने से नहीं बढ़ी है। 2019-20 में हमारा नॉमिनल जीडीपी जो था वो 220 लाख करोड़ रुपए था, 220 ट्रिलियन रुपीस, और 2024-25 का जो नॉमिनल जीडीपी प्रोजेक्टेड है वो 327 लाख करोड़ प्रोजेक्टेड है। So the growth in nominal GDP is projected at 50%, but growth in corporate tax is 80%. That's some buoyancy. So next time you see people telling you it has not benefited, उनको बोलना नहीं भाई एक आदमी कुछ बता रहा था, डेटा दे रहा था, तो जरा उससे भी बात कर लो। Anyways, then of course another thing is GST collection has now reached 18% of GDP. Buoyancy is high, and the buoyancy is now higher than what it was in the pre-GST days. In the pre-GST days, the buoyancy was 0.7%. Now buoyancy is above 1%, it's 1.2%. अगर आपके मन में आता है ये buoyancy का मतलब क्या हुआ, इसे कहते हैं tax buoyancy. इसका मतलब होता है percentage change in tax revenue divided by percentage change in nominal GDP. तो अगर आपके नॉमिनल जीडीपी के मुकाबले आपका टैक्स रेवेन्यू ज्यादा बढ़ रहा है, मतलब आप टैक्स कलेक्शन में अच्छे एफर्ट कर पा रहे हैं. If your tax collection is rising better than the nominal GDP collection, you're doing some good efforts in tax collection. So remember, highest tax source, income tax, second highest GST, third highest corporate tax. Then another good news is this union excise duty has gone down. ये mainly petrol and diesel पे लगता है, तो ये और एयर टर्बाइन फ्यूल पे, तो ये एक अच्छी बात है. अगर ये कम हो रहा है तो इसका मतलब सरकार जो रिग्रेसिव सोर्स था, जिस सोर्स में सबके ऊपर बर्डन बढ़ता था, इन्फ्लेशन के चांसेस बढ़ते थे, उसको थोड़ा कम कर रहे हैं और अपने प्रोग्रेसिव सोर्स इनकम टैक्स, कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स, इनको बढ़ा रहे हैं. तो एक बात और आप ध्यान रखेंगे, मैं आगे बढ़ने से पहले ये हाईलाइट कर दूं आपको, ये जो टैक्स है ये करीब 5% पे है अब ऑफ टोटल गवर्नमेंट रिसिप्ट्स, और ये 4% पे है जो हमारे टैक्सेस हैं. मैं कुछ हाईलाइट करना चाहता हूं. द इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस आर 18%, 5%, 4%. तो 27% of total government receipts are coming from indirect taxes, and direct taxes are 19% plus 17%. So 36% of government receipts are coming from direct taxes. So almost 57% of total tax collection is now direct tax, which is a progressive and good thing to do. 57% of total tax collection एक direct tax है. अब ये एक अच्छी बात है. ये बीच में हम थोड़ा रास्ता भटक गए थे. अगर आप 2016 को देखें, 17 को देखें, in 2016, 2017, the direct taxes had become 49% of total tax and indirect tax had become 51%. That is regressive. ये बुरा होता है because indirect tax का burden गरीबों पे ज़्यादा पड़ता है. अगर मैं एक पेन 100 रुपए का खरीदूं और 10 रुपए टैक्स दूं, और जो मेरी गाड़ी चलाते हैं वो भी वो पेन 100 रुपए का खरीदे, 10 रुपए टैक्स दें, तो मतलब टैक्स बर्डन उन पर रियल टर्म्स में ज़्यादा है because he is a relatively poor person. So that is why indirect tax is not a good idea. डायरेक्ट टैक्स की तरफ जो हम शिफ्ट कर रहे हैं, ये एक अच्छी बात है. साथ में इनकम टैक्स एंड कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स बोथ आर शोइंग ह्यूज बॉयंसी. दैट्स अनदर गुड थिंग. जो नॉन डेट कैपिटल रिसिप्ट्स हैं, ये मेनली होते हैं डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट, असेट मोनेटाइजेशन. ये नॉन डेट कैपिटल रिसिप्ट होते हैं. द डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट, asset monetization, recovery of loans given to others, these are non-debt capital receipts. These have now gone down a little, mainly because we have not been able to meet our disinvestment targets drastically. हमने टारगेट कम ही सेट किया था, वो भी मीट नहीं कर पाए. अभी सरकार थोड़ा पलटी मार रहे हैं. सरकार पहले बोल रहे थे 2021 the government had said that we will get out of all sectors and we will privatize all sectors except those declared as core and strategic. बट अभी सरकार कह रहे हैं वी आर वेटिंग, वी आर मेकिंग थिंग्स डिविडेंड ओरिएंटेड एंड वी विल ग्रो बेटर. तो तरह तरह की बातें चल रही हैं. विल हैव टू वेट एंड वॉच. मे बी इलेक्शंस की वजह से बोल रहे हैं, कहीं प्रो रिच ना समझ लें लोग, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ लोग ये नहीं सोचते दैट इफ यू आर रनिंग अ पब्लिक सेक्टर इन अ नॉन कोर एरिया लाइक से एन एयरलाइन कंपनी और अ मोटर पंप कंपनी और अ स्कूटर्स कंपनी, सो इफ यू आर रनिंग इट इन अ नॉन कोर एरिया and it is not even earning profit, that is worse for the poors, क्योंकि तब तो गरीबों का ज्यादा बुरा हो रहा है. अगर आप ऐसी कंपनी हटा दें, बंद भी कर दें कम से कम. अभी मैं आपको एक रिपोर्ट देता हूं उस पे. सरकार ने ये रिपोर्ट पब्लिश किया है. 389 सेंट्रल पब्लिक सेक्टर एंटरप्राइजेस इन इंडिया, 389, आउट ऑफ विच 98 आर नॉन ऑपरेशनल. कुछ नहीं कर रहे हैं वो. 398 में से 389 में से. अब आप सोच के देखिए, वर्कर्स की सैलरी जा रही है, मशीन्स के पैसे जा रहे हैं, रिपेयर एंड मेंटेनेंस के पैसे जा रहे हैं, बट ये प्रोड्यूस कुछ भी नहीं कर रहे हैं. तो क्या फायदा, इससे गरीबों का क्या भला हो रहा है. एंड अनदर 61 पब्लिक सेक्टर एंटरप्राइजेस आर अर्निंग लॉसेस अबव 1 लाख करोड़ रुपीस. दिस इज डेंजरस ट्रेंड. आई एम सॉरी, अबव 100 करोड़ रुपीस. दिस इज डेंजरस ट्रेंड. 100 करोड़ के ऊपर के नुकसान हो रहे हैं, प्रोडक्शन नहीं कर रहे हैं. तो 389 पब्लिक सेक्टर कंपनीज जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के अंदर है, उनमें से 159 are either not working and or if working not earning profit. This is where government can consolidate the fisc. ऐसे इंटरप्राइज से छुटकारा पाइए और उस पैसे को यूज कीजिए स्कूल बिल्डिंग बनाने में, हॉस्पिटल की बिल्डिंग बनाने में, रोड्स बनाने में, रेलवे प्लेटफॉर्म को और अच्छा बनाने में, पढ़ाई लिखाई बढ़ाने में. अगर हम ये करने लगे तो मुझे लगता है हमें और बेनिफिट मिल सकता है. Similarly, another thing is non-tax revenue. This non-tax revenue has gone up because of a great transfer by RBI to the central government. RBI ने करीब 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को डिविडेंड दिया था पिछले साल, क्योंकि RBI को गेन्स काफी हुए थे. So the non-tax revenue has gone up because of that dividend received from RBI. So that's a good number, but again this is a number that can't be relied upon. अगर आप ध्यान से देखेंगे, our major ideas are 28% borrowing, 36% direct tax, and 27% indirect tax. So 91% of total money is coming from either borrowing or taxation. The others are not at the moment that dominant. इन ट्रेंड्स को याद रखना, तभी मैंने पिछले साल को और इस साल को कंपेयर करके दिखाया है आपके पास इस स्लाइड पे. रिमेंबर द ट्रेंड्स, दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट. ओके, देन if we go further into this, there is another thing that where India spends its money. तो पिछला स्लाइड था कि भारत पैसे कमाता कहां से है, अगला स्लाइड है भारत पैसे लगाता कहां है, खर्च कहां करता है. तो एक तो हमारा खर्चा है इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट पे 20% ऑफ आवर टोटल गवर्नमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर, ये हमें कम करने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए. दिस इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर इज एडिंग नथिंग टू आवर ओवरऑल प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी. तो इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट कैसे कम कर सकते हैं? एक तो अगर हम पिछले पुराने बड़े लोन जो हैं वो चुका सकें, जिस पे हाई इंटरेस्ट रेट पे जो लोन लिया था, और दूसरा कि अगर हम अगेन पब्लिक सेक्टर को रैशनलाइज करें, असेट मोनेटाइजेशन करें और पिछले लोन चुका दें. If we can pay back our past loans by rationalizing public sector and asset monetization and pay back the older loans which are high interest loans, our interest burden will come down. That's a big thing needed in our system right now. It's a big burden. The state share of tax and duties is around 22%. ये state का share है tax और duties में, ये 22% है. Central sector schemes are another around 20%. And in fact 18%, and the finance commission and other transfers are approximately 7%. This is the finance commission, other transfers 7 to 8%. The centrally sponsored schemes are another 7 to 8%. अब मैं तुम्हें कुछ दिखाना चाहता हूं यहाँ. देखो, 22% this, 18% this, 7 to 8% this. Around 48% of the money given by central government on these is going to the state. In fact, आज की डेट में the states are receiving a lot of money in terms of devolution from the central government. जो central government को devolve करके दे रही है. तो ये जो चर्चा चल रही है fiscal problems की central और state के बीच में, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि अगर मिल बैठ के दोनों बात करें तो बेहतर होगा. Because central government is giving devolution to state governments, but the state governments, some of them are not acknowledging it, also because they are overspent, but also because the money is coming up at times through a central sponsored scheme. So in that case, the state governments feel that we are not getting the freedom to put it at the place where we can. So if both of them can sit together and discuss it, I think that will be a better idea. Then we talk about the other expenditures. Other expenditures होते हैं जो सरकार करते हैं from public accounts purpose, say for maintenance, repair, for development of infrastructure which was not foreseen. Then defense again has been given some relevance here. The defense expenditure is around 8% of our total expenditure. Subsidies are at 6% of total expenditure. Exam point of view से तुम्हें ये सबसे ज़्यादा याद रखना है that our interest obligation payments are pretty high and we will have to work a little bit on our interest obligation. So from expenditure point of view, focus on that. That will be more important. Then I have given you the deficit thing. ये prelims के लिए बनाया मैंने majorly. Prelims में आपसे पूछते हैं पिछले 10 साल में fiscal deficit क्या हुआ, revenue deficit क्या हुआ. तो आप ध्यान रखेंगे in the last 10 odd years, fiscal deficit was falling in the beginning till 2018-19. But then we had the COVID pandemic, before that the slowdown, and then the COVID pandemic. So fiscal deficit peaked here. Again after that there is a declining trend, from 6 to 6.8, 6.4, 5.9 and so on. Also the revenue deficit that we have had in this, again peaked here 7.3%. The good news is that we are planning to bring the revenue deficit down to 2. इसका मतलब अब हमारा ज़्यादा खर्चा कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर पे है रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर की जगह. ये भी एक गुड न्यूज़ है हमारे लिए. तीसरी बात हमारा इफेक्टिव रेवेन्यू डेफिसिट. अब देखिए जब भी आप ये टर्म देखें इफेक्टिव रेवेन्यू डेफिसिट, इफेक्टिव रेवेन्यू डेफिसिट, that is revenue deficit minus grants and aid given to state government for capital expenditure. जो रेवेन्यू डेफिसिट है उसमें से अगर हम वो ग्रांट हटा दें, वो मदद हटा दें सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की जो राज्य सरकारों को दिया गया कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर के लिए, तो जो बचता है वो है इफेक्टिव रेवेन्यू डेफिसिट. From total revenue deficit, if we remove the grants and aid given to state government for capital expenditure, central government giving money to state government for capital expenditure, effectively तो ये पैसा capital expenditure पे ही खर्च होगा. तो central government कहते हैं that if we remove this money from revenue deficit, then we get what is called effective revenue deficit. That is expected to fall to 1.5% in the next budget. It has been stable at 2.3% in the last budget estimate and revised estimate. The good thing about it is that means 2.8% is revenue deficit and 2.3% is effective revenue deficit. So another 0.5% of the GDP is used by the state government for developing capital expenditure. And if you recall the second video, I had told you why capital expenditure is important, because it adds value to the economy, the concept of crowding in that I had taught you there. Also, primary deficit has shown again a declining trend throughout here. It is expected to be only 0.8%. अब ये प्राइमरी डेफिसिट क्या होता है? ये होता है फिस्कल डेफिसिट माइनस इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट. क्यों कैलकुलेट करते हैं इसे? तो कभी कभी सरकार बोलते हैं कि भाई मैं तो लोन नहीं ले रहा ज़्यादा, लेकिन पिछले लोन इतने ज़्यादा हैं कि उनका इंटरेस्ट देने में मेरा डेफिसिट बढ़ता दिखता है. तो उसको चेक करने का तरीका होता है प्राइमरी डेफिसिट. Sometimes the current government says that I am not taking a large loan, my fiscal deficit would have been in control, but the primary deficit is high because interest obligations had been high last year. So primary deficit उसको check करते हैं. अब सोचिए अगर सच है ये बात, if this thing is true, then if I remove interest payment from the fiscal deficit, and then if primary deficit comes as low, then that means it is true that the government has kept its discipline, but due to past obligations of loans and interest payment, their fiscal deficit looks larger. And that's why I told you that reducing interest obligation is very important, because it is not giving us any major factor of return overall. So we should be kind of focused on reducing it. Another is, what are our sources of deficit financing? कैसे हम deficit financing को पूरा कर रहे हैं? तो देखिए, borrowing is almost constant. Borrowing as a source of market borrowing, that is, सरकार जो पैसा market से borrow कर रहे हैं, bond issue करके, treasury bill issue करके, ये constant रहा है पिछले 2 सालों में. ये अच्छा news है, because that will give some confidence to corporates that government will not reduce the liquidity in the market by borrowing more. This is one good thing, stable market borrowing, stable market borrowing. Other than that, जो उसके अलावा अगर आप देखें जो सबसे ज़्यादा पैसे मांगे जाते हैं, वो है सिक्योरिटीज़ अगेंस्ट स्मॉल सेविंग्स. जो हम गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड इशू करती हैं स्मॉल सेविंग्स को कोलैटरल बना के. स्मॉल सेविंग जैसे पोस्ट ऑफिस प्रोविडेंट फंड डिपॉजिट, ये एक स्मॉल सेविंग है. NSSO डिपॉजिट, ये स्मॉल सेविंग है. तो स्मॉल सेविंग को एक सिक्योरिटी बना के जो गवर्नमेंट पैसे इशू करते हैं, that is small saving, securities against small saving. So if you see, this has remained almost consistent and is a major source. And then when we talk about how much is the source of short-term treasury bills, we see that the government is trying to control it, the short-term treasury bills. And others are other sources of borrowing, like borrowing from RBI through ways and means advances, or borrowing with respect to non-market activities, borrowing directly from LIC kind of institutions. So those others have been kept in check also. That's good news. ये others 21-22 में बढ़ गए थे because market was not in a position to give good loans. So in 21-22 it had gone up, but again if we see 22-23 and revised estimates of 23-24, and in 24-25 the government actually says we will make it negative, which means that we will not be dependent on other source except which is being accepted overall. So having said that, this is the basic idea, and this is another thing I need you to see, the tax to GDP ratio. The tax to GDP ratio has overall shown a growth again in the post-COVID pandemic days, and otherwise it had shown a decline in between 1920 and then of course the COVID pandemic year. तो again ये trend याद रखोगे, टैक्स टू जीडीपी और ये सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का टैक्स टू जीडीपी है। कहीं कहीं आप पढ़ेंगे इंडियाज टैक्स टू जीडीपी इज 17%, 16.5%. दिस ईयर it is expected to grow beyond 17%. That is center plus state tax collection. Only central government tax collection is to GDP ratio is this that we see here. So this tax to GDP ratio again is something that is decent, 11.7%, but we should try increasing it. How to increase it? कैसे इसको बढ़ा सकते हैं? क्योंकि डेवलप्ड इकोनॉमीज में ये टैक्स टू जीडीपी रेशियो जो है ये कुछ 22% to 24% है। तो एक है इंक्रीज टैक्स बेस, दूसरा है यूज जीएसटी ट्रेल टू फाइंड मोर ट्रांजैक्शंस, और तीसरा है इंक्रीज टैक्स रैशनलाइजेशन, टैक्स के रेट्स को रैशनलाइज कीजिए। जो छूट वगैरह हम देते हैं, लॉट ऑफ एग्जेम्पशंस दैट वी गिव, वी शुड नॉट गिव दैट. सो इफ वी improve tax rationalization, exemptions and all can be reduced. I think that can also give us some better returns. But as I told you, the good news is that direct taxes are now taking a larger number compared to indirect taxes. ये एक बहुत अच्छा न्यूज़ है इंडिया के लिए, और मैं इसकी बात कर रहा था, अगर आपको याद हो, indirect taxes becoming larger than direct tax, indirect taxes almost similar as direct tax, indirect tax larger than direct tax. You see that? तो ये मैं बात कर रहा था that this was not a good trend to have. यही मैंने आपको कहा था 2018 में एक ऐसे सिचुएशन आ गया था. But overall, if we see, now we are coming back on track, and last few years, I mean, if you look at from 21-22, the direct taxes have been higher, but this year it is being much better with respect to that tax ratio collection. ये सारी चीजें जो मैंने आपको बताई, fiscal deficit trends, revenue deficit trends, effective revenue deficit trend, tax GDP ratio, direct tax indirect tax share, where does money come from, where does money go to, prelims point of view, very important. Please make sure that you are well in sync with that. Then of course we talk about fiscal federalism. So government ने कहा है that the transfer to states and union territories has gone up in the past 5 years. In 2019-20, they were transferring 11.45 lakh crore. Now it is almost double of that has been transferred to the state government. And also the finance commission grants have come down, but the non-tied grants have gone up. You know, the devolution, untied grant. तो ये आप फिगर दिमाग में रखेंगे. It will give you a good idea of the current dispute going on between central government and certain states which are complaining we are not getting the money. But when we look at the data, we see that the untied money, devolution का मतलब जिसमें कोई आपके ऊपर burden नहीं है कि आप इसे कहाँ खर्च करें, that has gone up, and including the interest payment. इसमें एक बात याद रखिए, इसमें tax पे loan given included होता है. जो loan सरकार दे रही है state government को कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर वगैरह के लिए, वो इसमें इंक्लूडेड है 3 लाख करोड़ का, तो वो एक फैक्टर जरूर है. बट दैट हैज गॉन अप एंड दिस हैज कम डाउन, द डिवोल्यूशन थ्रू द फाइनेंस कमीशन. But overall, if you see, the total money received by state governments has gone up. So then again, we have to take that debate in that consideration. हाँ, एक दिक्कत क्या हो रही है, that crisis of confidence जरूर है. जैसे केरला सरकार को अभी सरकार ने बोला, केंद्र सरकार ने, कि हम आपको पैसा नहीं सैंक्शन करेंगे, लोन लेना अलाउ नहीं करेंगे, because your off budget borrowings are high. But according to the rules that we have, the off-budget borrowings are not to be considered by central government while taking this decision. The state governments under fiscal responsibility legislation 2004 are expected to maintain 3% or lesser state fiscal deficit to GDP ratio. And if they are doing it, then central government cannot stop them or should not stop them from borrowing more. So there I think the central government has done overbearing thing. केंद्र सरकार को नहीं हस्तक्षेप करना चाहिए था. केरला सरकार कम से कम टेक्निकल ग्राउंड्स पे गलत नहीं कर रहे. आप बातचीत कर सकते हैं, उन्हें बोल सकते हैं कि आपकी ऑफ बजट बोरोइंग बहुत हाई है. ऑफ बजट बोरोइंग मतलब सरकार की जगह पब्लिक सेक्टर ने बोरो कर लिया, सरकार की जगह सरकार के किसी वित्तीय संस्थान ने बोरो कर लिया. a public sector borrows instead of the state government, or some financial institution of the state government borrows in place of state government, that's off budget borrowing, that it will not be seen in the budget, but it is a borrowing nevertheless. But that is not a part of fiscal responsibility legislation 2004. So then central government should have been careful when it came to taking the decision of telling Kerala government, we will not allow you to take loans further because your off budget borrowings have crossed the number. I think that's where fiscal federalism suffers. If there is a proper interaction between center and state government, that would have been better. But as far as numbers on devolution are concerned, we see that the total money has gone up, and we see that, more importantly, devolution has gone up. इसमें एक catch और है, union territories included हैं. अगर हम union territories हटा दें, तो ये number थोड़ा कम हो जाता है. That also you need to keep in mind. Then in the end, I have given things. That what are the steps taken for agriculture. So Kisan Samman Yojana, Fasal Bima Yojana, Sampada Yojana, Atmanirbhar Oil Seeds Abhiyan, Dairy Development, Matsya Sampada. For women, ये है ज्ञान के लिए क्या क्या किया, उसी में आपको cover हो जाएगा. For women, enrollment in higher education, STEM courses, covering Asha Anganwadi health workers under ABJAY, 70% houses under PMAY to women. Lakhpati Didis increased now the coverage by another 1 crore, from 2 crore to 3 crore. Similarly, MSME, the Mudra Yojana, Vishwakarma scheme, Skill India mission, formalization of micro food processing enterprises, emergency credit line guarantee support scheme. And for rural development, aspirational block and district program, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Grameen, DBT of 34 lakh crore, Janman Yojana for tribals, and MNREGS, increasing the budget for that. ये तुम्हें एक सिनॉप्सिस दे दिया मैंने कि ऐसे दिमाग में रखोगे. अगर कोई पूछते हैं क्या क्या स्टेप लिया गया बजट में, या कभी प्रीलिम्स में आ गया about this step taken in the budget, तो एक खबर रहे कि अच्छा ये बातें हुई थी. Overall, if we look at budget and try analyzing where did we get it wrong, where did we get it right. So if we look at good things, one, focus on innovation, 1 lakh crore fund, that's a very good beginning. 2, focus on capital expenditure, 11.1 lakh crore, that's a good enough increase, can create crowding in. 3, focusing on deprived sections, like on tribals, the budget allocation has gone up tremendously, like on women, including Asha workers, Anganwadi workers, etc. On youth, developing new institutions for training, focusing again on entrepreneurship development, giving better skills to the youth. So these are some of the highlighted better things about the budget. The missing part which we can hope to be covered in the next budget. कभी कभी जो आप में से इंटरव्यू कैंडिडेट हैं उनसे पूछेंगे आपकी क्या एक्सपेक्टेशन थी जो बजट में नहीं फुलफिल हुई. So 1, reviving more of agricultural R&D investment. We could have done better here. R&D investment in agriculture should have been improved. Government can focus a little more. Government is focusing, but should focus a little more. We had that missing in our budget. Another part missing in budget, which many were expecting, is maybe in the full budget the government can come up with that, but better allocation for social sector like education, हेल्थ केयर. और जो एक मिसिंग लिंक है कि वो सरकार जो है वो जो खर्चा दे रहे हैं वो भी पूरा नहीं हो रहा. ये एक खतरे की बात है. लास्ट ईयर वी बजटेड अराउंड 1,12,000 crore for education. We spent only 1,08,000 crore. This year we have budgeted 1,20,000 crore. Last year we budgeted 89,000 crore for health. We could spend only 79,000 crore. This is a missing link. This is something we should get worried about. वी शुड फोकस ऑन दैट. इनफैक्ट एग्रीकल्चर में मेरा एक और, अगर मैं 1B कह सकूं उसे, तो लेस फोकस ऑन एग्रीकल्चरल इन्वेस्टमेंट ओवरऑल, इरिगेशन डेवलपमेंट एंड ऑल, थोड़ा इस पे फोकस अगर हम ज्यादा करें तो कुछ बेहतर होगा. इस पे हमारा फोकस थोड़ा कम रहा है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है ये ज्यादा करना जरूरी है इंडिया के लिए. और एक तीसरी बात जो मुझे लगती है दैट द बजट हैज मिस्ड अपॉन एट द मोमेंट, and I hope the budget will call it out, or the government will call it out as a policy mechanism, is about improving tax base by collecting tax from rich untaxed. मैं जानता हूं इसको करने के लिए हिम्मत चाहिए, पर ये हिम्मत दिखानी पड़ेगी. फार्मर्स मूविंग इन ऑडी एंड BMW शुड बी पेइंग टैक्स. अगर स्कूटर पे घूमने वाले शहर के लोग टैक्स दे रहे हैं, तो गांव में जो घूम रहे हैं BMW में, फॉर्च्यूनर में, स्कॉर्पियो में, उनको टैक्स देना चाहिए. So this is something where we should work. Traders are not paying a lot of tax many times. Many, I'm not saying all, but many traders. Many small businesses are earning quite a bit but not paying tax. So these are few small things we can work upon. In the next budget, hopefully, more prudence will be shown here, and there will be some money invested for these things and more efforts done for these things. Another thing that I think central government can do, should do, is develop fiscal federalism by consulting the states. I know till the elections the pitch will be high and everybody will be talking lot of loud pitch, but I think this is something they should focus on. अगर ये चीजें होती हैं, अगले बजट में अगर हम इनको खबर में ले लेते हैं और फिस्कल डेफिसिट को थोड़ा और रोड मैप सही कर लेते हैं, I think we are on right track. We can grow better. So thanks a lot to all of you for being a part of this journey. I again thank my team, Devpreet, Divya, Sandeep, Lokesh, all of them, Akshay. They were all great help, the technical team at Next IAS and the management at Next IAS. And all thanks to you. Needless to say, मुझे कहने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, अगर आप Next IAS के स्टूडेंट नहीं भी हैं तो आप आइए, डाउट पूछिए और मेक श्योर कीजिए कि आप क्वालिफाई करें. और अगर आप स्टूडेंट हैं नेक्स्ट आईएएस के, तो आप हमारे ही बच्चे हैं, आपको कुछ कहने की ज़रूरत है ही नहीं. थैंक्स अ लॉट टू ऑल ऑफ यू. आई विल सी यू ऑल वेरी सून विद द नेक्स्ट वीडियो. बाय बाय टिल देन.